thanks for taking some time today. If it's cool with you, we can just roll right into it. I'm excited to talk Master of None.
Let's do it, please.
Well, cool, man. I have to say, I want to start here. There's a scene in season 3 where an interviewer comes over to Denise's house, and the first question she asks her is what she had for breakfast. So I'm going to ask you the same thing, Alan. What did you have for breakfast today?
I love it. I don't eat breakfast. So
really?
Yeah, I don't eat breakfast. Basically, I've worked out a very intricate system. I love food. So,
okay.
I as is evidenced by a lot of the things I've worked on, including Master of None, but I worked out a system now that I'm getting older where in order for me to eat what I want for dinner, I eat really light throughout the day, generally Monday through Friday. So I don't eat breakfast. I also don't drink coffee, which some people think is an insane.
Okay, now we're going a little crazy now.
I have a lot of energy when I wake up. So okay. I try to eat a salad for lunch, and then I eat whatever I want for dinner. So it's like for dinner, I'll eat anything. But yeah.
So what'd you have for dinner last night? Well, let's just get into it. We could talk food probably for 20
minutes. We could talk food. Man, now I'm trying to think what I had last night. Oh, last night I went over to a friend's place and they ordered barbecue, and it was really good.
Oh, okay.
It was a real meal. It was a real meal. And yeah, generally on the weekends, I kind of let myself eat whatever. And then, by the way, if we're on set, then I will have breakfast. So, because it's early in the morning, right? If you're on set at 6 a.m., at least I'll have a banana or an egg, egg whites or something like that.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you're getting fed when you're on set.
Yeah.
At what point did you guys decide that season 3 was going to be about Denise?
It was actually pretty long ago. The idea actually germinated way back, like literally season 1. We talked about how fun it would be to just explore other characters for episodes. And so there's a so-called Morning season 1 starring Noelle Wells and Aziz, kind of their relationship together. And we're like, yeah, what it would be like for Denise's mornings. And of course, season 2, we did the Thanksgiving episode, which did focus on Lena's character a little bit more.
Sure.
And then we kind of took this break, and we told Netflix we only want to do the show if we have another season we're as excited about as seasons 1 and 2. And one of the ideas that really got us going was this conception that this season is about Denise's character, and maybe the tone is a little bit different. And we've been watching all these specific movies and, a lot of slow cinema. And so, it was actually a while ago we started talking about the idea, and the scripts got written, a couple of years ago at least. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, that sort of leads into my next question, actually, because, so often if we're watching sort of a movie, television show about the dissolution of a relationship, so often that involves screaming and yelling and punching walls and whatever else. We have some of that here, of course, but really it exists, the pain and the suffering here kind of exists in the nuance, right? And sort of in the small silences, in those little moments. How conscious of you were you of making something so nuanced? I mean, you referenced some old films that you would watch. I would love to know what those were, but how conscious were you of tone throughout the entire thing?
Very, very much so. And I think doubly so, given that the show was largely more comedic before this point. There are dramatic elements, but definitely this season is the most dramatic of the 3. And I think our tendency, and I'll speak for Aziz and Lena, even though they're not here, a lot of our work it tends to not be overheated. It tends to be a little bit more observational and a little bit smaller, and hopefully a little less melodramatic, a little less sentimental, and a little hopefully more earned and more feeling like you're a fly in the wall in this couple's house. And so I always find that the most powerful stuff is the stuff that rings the most truthful and feels like you're in the relationship. So yeah, there is yelling and screaming, and quite frankly, there's a lot more arguments and yelling in this episode than anything I've ever worked on. There actually is yelling and screaming in this season, but we also really took care to show the joy in the relationship and show why Denise and Alicia are good for each other, and they were a good match, and what they saw in each other, because to care about the relationship, you have to build something meaningful between them, and then, get people to invest in it before you start, as you said, dissolving the relationship. And we were really inspired by the greatest examples of the genre, right? Obviously Ingmar Bergman, and then also Chantal Akerman with Jean Diamant. And then we watched a lot of family movies, Ozu movies as well, just for tone, right? And, you watch Ozu movie and it's sometimes the biggest moment in the movie takes place off screen. That was something that really resonated with us. It was like, oh my God, they had a falling out and you didn't even see it. You pick up the guys drinking alone at a bar or something. And it's like, wow, that ellipsis is really powerful sometimes.
Yeah. Well, increasingly, you know, we live in a television landscape where genre doesn't really exist, right? And you guys know that better than anybody, probably. But sort of veering into something that is undeniably more dramatic than the two seasons that came before, was there any concern about doing that and how audiences would respond to that who maybe aren't as clued into what's going on? Like, oh, a new season of Master of None, let's flip this on. Was there any concern about sort of having to trust audiences with that?
I think we really put a lot of faith in our audience and a lot of trust in them. And that goes for the execution of the show as well, where it's like, we trust them to go on this ride with us. And we're hoping that people watch the first two seasons and that they ostensibly like what we like. And right now, this is what we're in the mood to make. And if you're willing to follow us on this journey, we're really grateful. And we understand that it's an ask, right? It's an ask for the audience to be like, wow, it's a different character. It's also like a little different tonally. And wow, it's shot on 16 millimeter and it's the Academy ratio and all of these things. But I really feel like the people who've invested the time into watching it have, you know, the reaction to me has really been overwhelming. It's been so positive. And, you know, a lot of that is testament to not only Naomi and Lena, but also Aziz's direction and all the team who worked on it, because I think what we ended up executing is I'm really proud of.
Yeah. And, you know, I thought the journey of Alicia was particularly emotional. Why did you guys want to spend so much time on the fertility process, particularly for a queer woman, how difficult that entire process is? What was the motivation there?
One of the things that we kind of value while we're making the show is being honest with ourselves and being honest with what's going on in our lives and our phases of our lives, right? So, you know, when the show started, it was very much guys in New York who are in their early 30s or just turned 30, and you're dating and you're on apps, and, you know, things like representation and dealing with your parents who might be immigrants and stuff like that. And so we really found like this fertility issue was something that was really relevant to people of our age cohort. You know, it's been happening more and more, even after the season was locked. A bunch of my friends started going through a similar process and a similar experience. So to hear people talk about it with us and then watch the season and then talk to us about how it was relevant to their lives was really rewarding. And we're getting into that phase of our lives now. And then on top of that, the idea that it's a queer Black woman going through this process is something we hadn't seen represented on film. And it, by the way, adds its own specific obstacles. And we thought that was fascinating as well.
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, I'd never really seen anything like it. And on that note, I mean, we have to talk, at least briefly, or as long as you want, about Naomi Ackie, who I thought was just like a revelation in this thing. And she is so good. What was the casting process like, finding her, casting her? Was it long? Was it short? Because I mean, she just brings so much to this thing.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like Naomi in this season, us getting to cast her, is like buying Apple stock in like 1983.
Right, I know. Now she's gonna be Whitney, and you're like, whoa, we got her at the right time.
I mean, the prodigiousness of her talent is you know, unmistakable, and it was not an easy role to cast in the sense that, first of all, when the season got written, when Aziz and I first started talking about it and when the scripts got written, we first did a session with Lena and her reading her lines, and we did it in Allison Jones, our casting director's office. And that alone was like, oh my God, we have something. It was like, okay, this wasn't too wild an idea. Lena has grown and changed as a performer, as a personality, as a presence. We're like, wow, now the challenge is who's going to hold up next to her, right? Because she brings a lot of presence. So now it was finding that right chemistry. And you know, a lot of wonderful people were under consideration. But when we first read Naomi, it was, you know, you kind of know it when you see it. And then finally, when we got them together in the same room, it was like, wow, this is an example of, you know, working with Naomi saying, we can let a little more of you shine through. And that's the way we do the show, right? Naomi's classically trained. She's a British theater actor, right? She has all this experience. And for us, it was like, you know, Master None is more like you are kind of who you are. And that's how a lot of people kind of came through. And there's sort of this glimmer of truth that sort of you can get a glimpse of. So we kind of played with that and let her use her own British accent. And that yin and yang between the two of them, we felt was really special. And I think it was borne out in the episodes. And then, of course, her tour de force performance in episode 4, which I hope she's recognized for in many, many ways, is that's one person. That's a one-man show, a one-woman show. You know, that's a difficult thing to pull off. And her range, her charisma, her charm, her dramatic chops, obviously all shine through in that episode.
Yeah, amazing stuff. I echo everything that you said. There's one moment that I want to ask you, but I don't know if you had anything to do with it, but I'm curious. It really struck me. There's this moment, I don't know what episode it was. I want to say maybe 3, doesn't matter. It's a scene of Denise in the car and she's eating a burger.
I was there, man. I was there.
Hold on. I'm so fascinated by this. Were there conversations? Is this too much burger? Is it not enough burger? How much burger are we showing? Walk me through the burger scene, please.
100%. So, you know, there's a movie I mentioned called Jean Diamant, Key to Commerce, Ventois, and I'm trying to get all the Bruxelles, like I'm trying to get the whole title of the movie, but it's a Chantal Akerman movie. And one of the revelations of that movie, and that movie is much more extreme even than Moments in Love. Well, you know, Chantal Akerman would just set the camera down and it would be 7 minutes of a woman washing dishes, etc. Well, we didn't do that, but we really felt like there's something about dropping someone into that time. That it's sort of time is one of the most, you know, valuable resources we have as filmmakers, right? And a lot of filmmaking is you're a time machine, right? You can cut from time and space and kind of, you know, buffet people around. And in this case, it's like, no, we want you there. We want you there. And you're thinking about it. And the longer you're in this shot, we felt like the more powerful it was. The same thing goes for, you know, them doing laundry or that, you know, there's certain scenes where, of course, there was a discussion. Of course, there was like, hey, could this be 3 seconds? Yeah, we're 15 seconds. And you know, there were a couple funny things on the day where Lena was like, guys, I love you. I'm not going to eat 50 burgers. So let's figure out what we're doing. Let's make sure it's correct. Right. And I also remember on the day, it was like, we're not sure. We were going to shoot it frontal and then there was reflections. I was like, maybe we should shoot it from the side. So like, we just don't get the reflection in the window. Yeah. It was a whole thing because we knew it was almost like a stunt where it's like, let's do this once. Let's not make Lena eat 10 burgers.
Yeah. We don't need to make it.
Yeah, that was basically, you know, we want you to be there with her and really experience what it's like to hide from your spouse, to feel that distance, and sneak that entire burger in.
There's nothing like eating some fast food in the car. We've all been there. We know those moments.
Very relatable.
I know, God, I wish it wasn't, but I always love asking people like you about their own stuff, but I love asking them about what they love. So what have you maybe watched over the past year or so that you've binged or loved or whatever? There's been so much stuff. What have you been watching?
I like that very helpful span of time because it's not like, what were you watching last week? But I would say, I think my favorite show last year was probably I May Destroy You. I know that's probably a common answer, but it just, you know, as far as things that really open up your mind and expose you to a specific point of view, someone who is a terrific writer, director, producer, actress, all of it, that one really, really tore me apart. Very recently, I've been watching Mayor of Easttown. I watched Loki the other day. That was fun. So I've watched all the Marvel shows. I think those are a nice sort of respite from some of the heavier stuff. So it's like, yeah, I'll throw on WandaVision or Falcon, Winter Soldier, or Loki. So I've been watching those. But yeah, you know, certainly researching for this season, it was a lot of heavy stuff, a lot of heavier, sort of more serious films. So I've been on a little bit of a lighter kick recently.
You have to. You got to balance it out, man.
Yes.
It's too much. Well, Ellen, thank you so much for your time. This has been so much fun. I'm excited that people are finding the show. I think it's really special. And everything that you guys did was great. So congratulations and best of luck with everything. Appreciate the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have a great day.